everything that's been said about raising the bar is very, very important. I think that when you, for example, put on a really interesting show, then people are going to write about that show. So if curators can come up with interesting ideas, it does give you something to talk about. With the Little Enlarged show, asking people to make a piece of, asking a sculptor to make a piece of jewelry and a jeweler to make a piece of sculpture, and then compare those two things, to have them, to make a dialogue, to have a talking point within a curated show, I think is very important. Curated shows on interesting themes will get press if they are interesting enough. And also, they will help. I have found that the artists in San Diego are very, very positive about involving themselves, of raising the bar, of meeting a challenge, if there's a challenge. And they have the right to say, no, I don't want to do that. I've got my own thing. I'm fine. But if you, you know, and I always respect an artist that says, no, that's not the show for me. I don't want to be in that show. But there are other artists that say, you know, that's really intriguing and it goes along with something I want to do, and that's going to be stimulating to me. So I think having something really interesting to talk about instead of something boring is very, very important. I don't see how we can expect somebody that's out there just reading the newspaper to see the headline of two names that they don't know who those two people are, and expect them to ever show up for a show with that as the title of the show. But on a higher level, the art criticism has to be really astute, and it has to be really succinct and really helpful. But there is another level, and that's dealing with the people in San Diego who are intimidated by that kind of criticism, who can't read it, who can't understand it. And for those people, I think we need people who are simply good writers and not graduates of art history to write about art just because they can write well. And I think we need to tap into those people that write really well and write in an interesting way to start to write about art. And where can they write about art? They can write about art in blogs. They can write about art on the internet. They can make their own blog and have and if we are a visual, because we are a visual media, they should be video blogs, because we need to be able to see you know, what art looks like, and not just audio. It needs to be both. So there's this huge new wave and San Diego, I think, could be on the cutting edge of that, because we are very technologically advanced in San Diego. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in that regard.
I think you're right. I mean, I think the idea that that's one area it could expand, but I would still contend that because the blogosphere is so fragmented and there's so many blogs, and that you still need to have San Diego reach the national thing. You know, you still, because that's where it's just where the attention will come to the city in terms of art.
I agree with you. I agree with you, especially in terms of the way the art world functions on the worldwide stage. But I put it to you that because we don't have that in San Diego, if we went off in a different direction that was brand new, we could actually create something here that is not within that system, that is independent of that system. I'm talking about fantasy here, so, you know, I don't know what that's going to be, sure, but there is that possibility.
I would just say, or maybe even more events like this, or just more events of like live discussion with people just getting together and talking about art things, and then I would say, like, in reference to mostly City Beat, read the Reader all that much. Like it seems like they have no problem when they do film reviews or theater reviews. Like I read today's paper that there's no problem writing criticism about or doing an analysis of it. But then it seems like for some reason every time it's in art review. It's not really review, it is more of a promotional piece. And it's like, I don't really get much more than when I look at the image that they print in the paper than by reading the article. What I just see in that image.
Let's take Swanee's.
So let me tell you how it works. Nobody seems to know how it works. All right, I'll tell you how it works. How do you take an artist who is selling $50 drawings at the Mexican consulate and have him have a one-man show at Pierogi Gallery in 3 months, in 5 years, and have his drawings go from that to 48 to 55,000 and have major stories all over the country? Ugo Crossway is who I represent. I'll tell you how you do it, because that's what I do for a living for certain people. Don't mob me. All right? It's your dealers. You guys don't have dealers, and this is what's wrong. Your galleries don't work for you. Your dealers don't. You don't have dealers. You don't have people doing what they're supposed to be doing for you. You know, how do people get famous? How do people get media coverage? How do the people know? Because you have a dealer that takes care of you, ships your work, writes your stuff, helps you get seen, sends your work out to galleries, notifies Bob Pincus every time Ugo Crossway farts. I mean, goes and places stories, gets you in the right shows, tells you where to apply to the right residencies, tells you how to do things. Your dealers are your mothers. And in this town, there are no dealers. And most of the galleries don't function as dealers, and they don't know how. You know, in New York, if you're held by a New York gallery, just your dealer does everything he can to get you everywhere he can, in every museum, everywhere that goes. There is not a single gallery in this town that does that. They don't know how to send shows out. They don't know how to send their artists out. They don't know how to get them shown internationally. They don't play stories. They don't handle artists, pay for artists. I mean, I paid for Ugo for 2.5 years so he could work and do a show. I mean, you know, the level of this happening here.
This is 2007. I mean, the rules have changed.
Yeah.
This isn't
What do you mean? I'm doing this now for a living.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
dealers
totally
take care of their
detached.
artists.
No,
And
no,
what you
I
need
wanna
is you need a
second
dealer.
what-
not.
what
Get us one.
Katherine is
It's the
saying,
bridge.
because I like the way that she's using the term dealer. That might just be a word that goes by you without any significance, but there's a big difference between a dealer and a gallery owner.
Big
Back in the
difference.
day, the people who had the galleries, they bought the art. You know, they bought the inventory.
That's right.
That was their inventory. So now they had a stake in it. They had a stake in selling that art, and they had a stake in keeping the price high, especially if they liked the piece that they bought. The next best thing is what you just mentioned. The dealers have to support their own artists. If you have to give them money, the worst thing about the gallery system in San Diego is the consignment system.
Terrible.
Consignment sucks.
And as a private dealer, the artists that I represent, I buy their work. He's exactly right. I have an investment in every piece that they do. I own, and it's my job to get those pieces in the galleries, in the museums, and get them seen. And you know, that's kind of what's missing in how you get somebody seen. Now, on the other hand, you know, how many of you are Hugo Cross with? That's the other thing. I mean, I get people showing me art all the time. Please don't waste my time. You know, but I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
but that is a matter of
have
opinion,
The
you know,
level
like,
of commitment that this
there
guy
are
has.
artists here to
No, but
the
I mean,
same
maybe
category
so,
of
but I mean,
Google
the level
Crossway.
of commitment that this
And it's
guy
like
has.
the way that you direct your business is a fascist way of promoting
it's
art.
not-
You
there's
know,
nothing
it's like you can control the
No, I don't
stuff.
control anything he does. I never tell him anything to do. You can ask him. But I mean, you know, what happens is he spends, you know, a year in the studio.
It was my intention to finish these questions by each.
Give me a break.
This one is right up that alley.
Well,
This one is that question.
Your gallery should be your dealers. I mean, they should function that way.
If there was
But if
galleries.
there aren't dealers in San Diego.
But there are, and you just don't know who they are. I mean, I'm a big time dealer. How many people know? How many people know me?
I know.